Faith was born without front legs. Her mother abandoned her at birth, and she was left to fend for herself in the cold, harsh world. It seemed like Faith's future was bleak, and she would struggle to survive in a world where physical ability was essential. But then, a kind-hearted woman named Sarah found her and took her in. Sarah was an animal lover and couldn't bear to see the little puppy struggling. She took Faith to the vet and got her checked out, and to her surprise, the vet told her that Faith was a fighter. She was special despite her disability. Faith had learned to walk on her hind legs, and she had a fierce determination that impressed everyone who met her. Sarah was amazed by Faith's resilience and spirit, and she knew that she had to help her in any way she could. She started by giving Faith a comfortable home, with plenty of soft blankets and toys to play with. She also worked with a dog trainer who specialized in helping dogs with disabilities, to teach Faith how to navigate the world on her hind legs. It wasn't easy for Faith, of course. She struggled to perform basic tasks like getting upstairs or playing with other dogs. But she never gave up. Whenever she fell down, she picked herself up and tried again. Sarah watched in amazement as Faith grew stronger and more confident with each passing day. One day, Sarah took Faith to the park. It was a beautiful day, and the park was bustling with activity. There were children playing on the swings, families having picnics, and dogs running and playing together. Faith's eyes lit up as she saw the other dogs. She longed to join in their games, to run and play and catch the ball like they did. But she knew it would be difficult, if not impossible, without front legs. Sarah took Faith to a quiet corner of the park, where they could watch the other dogs without feeling overwhelmed. Faith sat on her hind legs, her eyes following the dogs as they ran and played. Suddenly, a golden retriever bounded up to Faith. He was big and friendly, with a wagging tail and a tongue lolling out of his mouth. Faith looked up at him, unsure of what to do. "Hey there." The golden retriever barked. "What's your name?" Faith looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "Her name is Faith," she said. "I'm Max," the golden retriever said. "Do you want to play?" Faith hesitated, unsure if she could keep up with Max. But then, she remembered her determination and her fighting spirit. She nodded her head, and Max's face lit up with a grin. "Great. Let's play catch," he said, bounding away to fetch a ball. Sarah threw the ball to Max, who caught it easily in his mouth. He brought it back to Faith and dropped it at her feet. Faith looked at the ball, then at Max, then back at the ball. She knew what she had to do. She stood up on her hind legs, balanced herself, and reached out with her mouth to catch the ball. She missed, but she didn't give up. She tried again and again, each time coming closer to catching the ball. Max was patient and encouraging, and he never once made fun of Faith for her disability. Sarah watched with tears in her eyes as Faith and Max played together, two unlikely friends brought together by a shared love of life. From that day on, Faith and Max were inseparable. They ran and played together, and Max helped Faith learn new skills and abilities. Sarah watched in amazement as Faith grew stronger and more confident, and she knew that, as time went on, Faith's and Max's friendship grew stronger. They became known around the neighborhood as the dynamic duo, and people would often stop to watch them play. Children would come up to Faith and marvel at how she could walk on her hind legs, and Faith would wag her tail happily, basking in the attention. But not everyone was happy about Faith's newfound popularity. There was a group of neighborhood dogs who resented Faith's presence. They were the popular dogs, the ones who had always been the center of attention. They didn't like the fact that Faith was stealing their spotlight. One day, when Faith and Max were playing in the park, the group of dogs approached them. They circled around Faith, growling and baring their teeth. Faith cowered behind Max, unsure of what to do. "What's wrong with her?" One of the dogs sneered. "Why can't she walk like a normal dog?" Max stepped forward, his fur bristling. "She's just different," he said. "But that doesn't mean she's any less of a dog than the rest of us." The group of dogs laughed. "Different? She's a freak," one of them said. Faith felt a wave of despair wash over her. Was she really a freak? Was she really less of a dog than the others? She had always felt different, but she had never thought of herself as a freak. She looked up at Max, hoping for some reassurance, but Max was too busy fighting off the other dogs. He barked and snarled, trying to protect Faith from harm. The group of dogs was too large, though, and soon Max was overwhelmed. He yelped as they bit and scratched at him, trying to drive him away. Faith was alone, surrounded by her enemies. She knew that she had to do something, but she didn't know what. She closed her eyes and focused on her breathing, trying to calm herself down. Suddenly, a memory flashed into her mind. It was a memory of Sarah, teaching her how to balance on her hind legs. Faith opened her eyes and stood up on her hind legs. She wobbled a little, but then she steadied herself. She lifted her head high and looked at the other dogs, her eyes blazing with determination. The other dogs stopped growling and stared at Faith in surprise. They had never seen a dog stand up on its hind legs like that before. Faith took a step forward, then another. She walked towards the other dogs, her head held high. She didn't know what she was doing, but she knew that she had to do something. She reached out with her mouth and nipped at the leader of the pack, a fierce-looking German Shepherd. The German Shepherd yelped in surprise and stepped back. The other dogs looked at Faith in confusion. They didn't know what to make of her. Faith took another step forward, then another. She walked around the other dogs, nipping at them and growling softly. She didn't hurt them, but she let them know that she wasn't afraid anymore. The other dogs looked at each other, unsure of what to do. They had never seen a dog like Faith before. They didn't know if they should be afraid of her or respect her. Finally, the German Shepherd stepped forward. Okay, he said. We get it. You're tough. We'll leave you alone. The other dogs nodded in agreement, and they backed away from Faith. Max, who had been lying on the ground, bleeding and bruised, looked up at Faith in amazement. You did it, he said. From that day on, Faith's and Max's friendship became even stronger. They were inseparable, and people marveled at the bond they shared. The group of dogs that had once resented Faith's presence now respected her, and they even began to include her in their pack. But as much as Faith loved her life with Max and the other dogs, she still felt like something was missing. She had always wanted to do something more, something bigger than herself. One day, while she was out for a walk with Max, she saw a group of children playing in the park. They were laughing and running, their faces lit up with joy. Faith watched them for a moment, then looked up at Max. I want to make them happy, she said. Max looked at her, confused. What do you mean? I want to do something for them, Faith said. I want to show them that even if you're different, you can still be happy, and make other people happy. Max looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Okay, he said. But how are you going to do that? Faith didn't know yet, but she was determined to find a way. She spent the next few days wandering around the park, watching the children and trying to come up with an idea. Finally, inspiration struck. She remembered the way the children had looked at her when she walked on her hind legs. They had been fascinated, enchanted by her grace and courage. Faith knew what she had to do. She would put on a show for the children, a show that would inspire them and show them that anything is possible if you believe in yourself. She practiced for weeks, walking on her hind legs, balancing on one paw, and even doing a little dance. Max helped her, cheering her on and offering words of encouragement. Finally, the day of the show arrived. Faith was nervous, but she was also excited. She knew that this was her chance to make a difference, to show the children that even a dog born without front legs could still do amazing things. The children gathered around her, their faces filled with anticipation. Faith stood up on her hind legs and began to walk around, her tail wagging happily. She did her tricks, balancing on one paw, then the other, and even doing a little dance. The children clapped and cheered, their faces filled with wonder. They had never seen a dog like Faith before. They had never seen a dog who could do the things she did. After the show, the children came up to Faith, petting her and asking her questions. Faith basked in the attention, happy that she had been able to make them happy. As she lay down on the grass, next to Max in the soft grass, she felt a sense of peace and contentment. She had done something good, something that had made a difference in the world, and that was all she had ever wanted. That's all, folks. If you're enjoying our story content, we'd love it if you could support us by subscribing to our channel and liking our videos. By doing so, you'll be encouraging us to improve, grow and reach more people with our stories. Plus, you'll never miss out on new content that we release. Thanks so much for watching, and we appreciate your support.